Hey guys, a lot of people have been wondering what the best compositions are for climbing to, for example, diamonds, platinum, masters, whatever you have you. So I just want to say, first of all, that compositions, it doesn't really matter which one you go as long as they're at least B tier. You just really have to know the ins and outs of the composition, and if you know that, climbing shouldn't be an issue if you know when to level, know when to econ, and know when to roll. But I do get this question a lot. What is the best composition for climbing? So right now for patch 10.16, if you're trying to get to diamond or anything below that, I do mark out the difficulties in each of my compositions in the meta snapshot. So if you look at each section and look at the difficulty section, I'd try to stick to those which are either low or medium difficulty, and I'll get into why. So if you play like a very punishing composition, for example, the protector build where you have to go to level 9 and try to hit all the legendaries, if you don't know how to execute this properly and you make one or two major mistakes, you'll pretty much go 8th place every time because you do not properly econ to level 9, or you lose too much health that you can't even make it to level 9. So I'd tend to stay away from compositions with high difficulty if you are diamond or below. That's not saying you can never play these compositions, but if you're trying to main one of these compositions, I definitely do not recommend it. So with that in mind, I did just update my meta snapshot for week 2 of patch 10.16, but let's get into the compositions of what I recommend for climbing in terms of difficulty. So first one that comes to mind, it has to be the S tier composition, which is Mech Pilot, and that's because the items are super flexible. You could go pretty much any items on your mech. You could go damage, defensive. Defensive is generally the best, but there are a ton of different options which you could go into. I list them out down here. You could do like the dodge mech, you could do Titan's Resolve, you could do Bramble Vest, and then you just need Victor items. So pretty much this composition makes use of every item really well except for Sword. Sword really only builds Spear or Shojin. So I recommend this composition a lot if you're trying to climb to get to Diamond. Again, it's only medium difficulty, and it would be low difficulty if it weren't for the fact that you do not get the mech every game. So the only thing you need to know about this composition is what to do if you don't get the mech and how to keep your board strong enough so that you don't bleed out too quickly. That's really the only challenge with this composition at lower levels, but if you just hit the mech magically, the composition's really easy to play. Generally, I like to roll at level 8. Sometimes I have to roll at level 7. That's another decision point that you have to make. Moving on to the next composition, we have Cybernetics. Cybernetics, I think, are very easy to play at a basic level. It gets really harder to master, but I think to play it decently, it's pretty easy. You pretty much just go fast 8, roll at level 8. If you get an Echo, you have a great chance of getting second or first place. If you don't get the Echo, it's fine. You could still stabilize if you have perfect Vayne items. So really all you need to do is get great items for Vayne and maybe like a win streak in the early game. Again, perfect Vayne items is Infinity Edge and Last Whisper and then one more damage item. It doesn't really matter which. I do prefer Giant Slayer more than anything else because mech is so prevalent in this meta right now, but it could be like a Death Blade, it could be a Rage Blade, it could be a Rapid Fire Cannon, it could be like a Blademaster spatula. There are a lot of different options, but I do think Giant Slayer is the best, but you can't really pick 3 perfect items for your carry. So as long as you have the first 2, which is Infinity Edge and Last Whisper, I think you should be doing okay. The difficulty is medium instead of low because it does have a similar problem as the mech. If you don't hit 6 Cybernetic, you're going to need to know other transitions. For example, there's a 6 Chrono build that's very popular with Cybernetics right now, and some people go for that instead of the 6 Cybernetic build. If you don't hit the 6 Cybernetics in stage 4, you'll need to play something like 4 Vanguard instead in order to keep your team up, or like maybe even like a 4 Chrono build. These are the types of things you need to know, and if you don't, you might bleed out, which again is why the difficulty is set to medium instead of low. Let's go on to the next composition. I don't recommend protectors at all for newer players, so we're going to go ahead and skip down a little bit more. I don't recommend Star Guardian Sorcerers either, just because it's very similar to the protector build. It relies a lot on getting Xayah, and if you don't know what to do if you don't get Xayah, you're going to have a lot of issues playing that composition. Moving into the next composition, which is Astro Sniper, I don't recommend this either. This composition isn't as strong as it used to be because it got nerfs recently, and the meta isn't that favorable for it, so I would also avoid this composition since I put the difficulty as high right now. Rebels are another comp you could play if you're trying to get to Diamond or Platinum or Gold. So pretty much you just want to build your team around Gangplank and Jinx. So I like building a mix of both Gangplank and Jinx items, and Again, similar problem with the other compositions, which is why it's medium instead of low difficulty, and that is because if you don't hit GP, you're going to have to know what to play instead. So what I like to do if I don't hit GP is I like to stack either like a Gnar if I have a Malphite, or stack Ziggs if he's 2-star with the Gangplank items. The reason behind this is that Ziggs is still a decent carry, and if you're not able to hit the specific legendaries that you want, it's like a good enough option where you can just play Fizz with like the same items. He uses Ionic Spark really well, he uses Guardian Angel pretty decently, and he uses Hat pretty well too. Jinx is super strong. I've been loving Rapid Fire Cannon in Rebel Jinx right now, but you still obviously want Giant Slayers, red buffs, Infinity Edges, all that type of stuff. But overall, this composition's pretty good. You just want to go to fast 8, roll at 4-3, and try to hit either Jinx 2 or a legendary unit, then go 9, or roll more at 5-1 in order to complete 2 stars of your units. For example, if I hit a Gangplank in 4-3 and I have a Nico, I might roll for him at 5-1 instead of leveling up to level 9. But if I only have one Gangplank, or if I have no Gangplanks and I have Jinx 2 already, I'll probably try to hit level 9 instead. The next composition we have is a Xayah reroll composition, and it's listed as easy just because a lot of the decisions are made for you. For example, you do not level up at any point until after you hit Xayah 3. You pretty much just go for the same items every game, which is Last Whisper, Infinity Edge, and then preferably a Giant Slayer for the third item for Xayah. You play the exact units every single game. Every unit is very hittable since you don't have any legendary units. So overall, this is a very good composition for climbing. It's a slow roll composition, so you pretty much, like a quick guide to play is, you need to open fort, get a lot of gold, and then slowly roll your gold down to 50 gold while staying at level 5 until you hit Xayah 3. And then once you do, you pretty much just power level up, get to level 8, and then put in the 6 Blademasters power spike with the Rakan and Jarvan as your tank line. But very easy comp. I really do recommend this a lot, and it's really good on certain galaxies such as Trade Sector, Treasure Trove, and you pretty much just want to avoid playing it on either Plunder Planet or Binary Star. Next up, we have Blaster Brawler. This one's very similar to Rebel, except you use 4 Brawlers instead of 6 Rebels. They both like the Gangplank, they both still stack the Jinx, and I feel like this composition's slightly easier to play than Rebels because they're not as reliant on Gangplank. You're perfectly fine with just a Jinx carry, and another out in terms of legendaries is putting in a Janna. If I don't have Last Whisper, I love putting in Janna because it pretty much easily counters all the Vanguard players. And like the mid-game power spike from 4 Brawler is so big that a lot of times that you don't need to make this team that much stronger in order to win the game at lower elos. For example, this composition falls off pretty hard in the late game when you get into some more difficult lobbies, but if people don't know how to properly reach the late game, this composition gets first place a ton in lower elos. Next up is Battlecast. I don't recommend Battlecast. Even though it's a reroll composition, people might think it's easy, but it really isn't. You have to know when and how to get to level 9, and pretty much any level 9 comp is going to be pretty difficult for players who aren't that high up. So next composition is the Blademasters, and this comp's pretty easy because, again, it's a reroll composition and you're playing the same exact 8 units every single game. But unlike Battlecast, you don't need to reach level 9 every time. You generally go for Shen 3, Master Yi 3, Zed 3 if you have Blademaster Spatula, and like maybe a Yasuo 3 if you happen to hit it. But it is, one thing to keep in mind is that it is a pretty item dependent composition, so you can't really play it every game. But if you do get a good start for it, if you get a bunch of bows early, if you get a Master Yi early, I definitely recommend going for this composition because it's very easy to play once you get a good start for it. Pretty much the way to play it, you just rush level 7, preferably at 4-1 or 4-2, and you pretty much just slow roll from there, stabilize with Master Yi 2-star, and then try to go for Master Yi 3 and Shen 3, as those are the 2 most important units. Lastly, we have Space Pirates. This is a newer comp that I just added to the tier list. It revolves around Gangplank. I don't know if you guys have noticed the pattern yet, but a lot of compositions right now are being played around Gangplank. This is because he got a big buff recently, and yeah, if he gets a buff, the difference between him killing everything and everything living with 1 health is like a make or break threshold, and right now he is at the point where he does kill a lot of things if he has the right items. It works very similarly to the Rebel build. You pretty much just want to rush 8, roll down at 8, hopefully stabilize with either Jinx 2 or Gangplank, and try to get the Gangplank as early as possible because the earlier you get him, the more items you get. Space Pirates, they give a chance to drop items upon a kill. So that means the earlier the game is, the more chances you have to get kills in order to get more items to have a stronger late game. This composition probably has one of the strongest late games in the game because you get so many items. You eventually want to add Thresh in here, and then he pulls more units in. You itemize everyone with 3 items, and then like you should win from there, assuming you get a lot of the items. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you never hit the gangplank and you go 8th, which is why I don't really recommend this composition if you don't know how to navigate it properly. But the pirates in the early game make the game so easy. You'll have a lot more gold than other people. For example, if you have a great Darius start, if you have like all the gangplank items on Darius during stage 2, which is like Hat, Ionic, Guardian Angel, maybe you have Darius 2-star, you're going to get a ton of gold, which makes the game super easy to play in the beginning. So you only have to watch out if you don't hit gangplank, but you could always try to go level 9 to try to roll for him there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't recommend Vanguard Mystic because you have to scout a lot every single turn. Darkstar's a little too weak right now in order to really play that often at lower elos, so I don't really recommend either of those 2 compositions. I don't recommend C tier compositions either, so pretty much stick to the compositions that I mentioned, which are Mech, Cybernetics, Rebels, Shredder, Blaster Brawler, 6 Blademaster, and the Space Pirates, if you want to get to Diamond. So let me know how this works out for you. Hopefully you guys climb in the last couple of days of this patch. There's a new patch on Wednesday. I'm going to be going over a patch rundown on Tuesday. And one thing to note, I also did open up channel membership. So if you are interested in supporting the channel, if you want to get a cool role in our Discord, there are a bunch of other perks as well, which you could read about by clicking the join button down below. Definitely go ahead and check that out. If you are new to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you want to get notified about new videos. I'll be also streaming on YouTube Friday through Sunday at around 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. US Eastern time, so I definitely look forward to seeing you guys there. But yeah, that's it for me. Also, the Worlds qualifiers are being played for North America and Europe West. I know a lot of you guys are from those servers, so definitely want to catch those. I'll probably be giving my prediction video on that hopefully tomorrow, so look out for that as well. But apart from that, I'll see you guys later. Good luck on your climbs. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe, and of course smash that like button. Each like is an LP I gain before the next video.